Record.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're based. Welcome to another episode of Saltainment. Today with us, I have Jonathan Constantine from the Republican Overseas Quarters. We're going to have a lengthy discussion on U.S. Greece relations, a little bit of the historical trajectory between these two countries, and where we're heading overall. So, Jonathan, thank you for joining us.
Hi, it's great having you here. We've been talking over the internet, and welcome to the studios of the Republicans Overseas Hellenic Chapter. And we use the studios to have our podcasts on our ilovepatrida.com website, which is our web TV, and other websites which we run in order to communicate with our people.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I think we should start from the beginning.
Well, the beginning actually is in 2019 when I get a phone call from an old friend, and he asked me, "Listen, we have a problem in Greece with our chapter. It's almost dead.
Mhm.
And Jonathan, do you think you can step in and help out?" I tell him, "How dead is dead?" Uh, well, we have less than 100 members and one event a year. Well, I said, "Wow, that's dead. I mean, really dead." I know already that we have about 180,000 Greek American
Mhm.
passport holders in Greece, which is a huge distance between the actual Republicans Overseas organization now and what it could be. And so having said that, Republicans Overseas is the voice of the Republican Party all around the world. Democrats have a similar thing called Democrats abroad. We have Republicans
Mhm.
overseas, and it works from DC, and it appoints chapter leaders all around the world. Now, from 2019, it was a massive undertaking. We managed to register about 45,000 Republican voters US wide. And that was very hard because most of the people here in Greece are retirees who have left the United States after having worked there for 20, 30 years. Some are, most are first generation,
Mhm.
some are a second generation, and they return to Greece, but they're very widespread all over the country. And that means we have to travel a lot. Yesterday, I was in Castoria, where there's a big hub. Actually, most of them are from New York. They were involved in the fur trade. And we have similar outings to all of Greece, but we do a lot of work, obviously, from the internet. And the most important thing is set up what we call a help center because of many administrative problems having to do with Greek Americans here in Greece and them not being able to have access to consular services. But I think we can get into that afterwards. Now, there are two chapters in of the Republicans overseas. The RO organization was originally formed in Hong Kong, but it soon spread out worldwide. The two big chapters. Number one is Israel. I mean, obviously, everybody can understand that it has about 500,000 registered Republicans there. And currently, the second one is Greece. And in terms of organization, Greece also, because we have the studio and we have a very strong presence on social media and web pages and organization. Yes, we do take a lot of the workload from the Republicans Overseas Organization. And another thing that we work the East Med Strategic Studies Institute together with Israel, and that's the think tank for regional politics. That takes up a lot of our time because that reports back to the Republican Party on how things are going in the Southern Europe, Middle East, and it's a lot of work and a lot of quality reporting that's being done there. So the next thing you probably ask me is how do we manage in terms of budget, in terms of time? Okay,
Stole it right on my mind.
we're completely self-funded. Pay a subscription to the Republican Overseas Organization, indirectly to the GOP. No, nobody funds us. It's a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work. I spend at least 10 hours a day for the Republicans overseas on average, and I still have to work to make a living and to be able to contribute from what I can to the Republicans overseas. We're very wary about accepting donations because donations is comes usually with an attachment, and Greece is very well known for its corruption, and so that makes a big problem.
Well, back in the day, they used to say that about the Italians, but if you look at it in modernity, Greece is your go-to place for corruption. And I'm saying this no filter whatsoever.
You know, and partly we were responsible. We as America are
Hmm.
responsible for that because over the last 10, 15 years, we've been giving massive amounts of USAID grants to center and center left organizations, even far left organizations, in order to promote a specific agenda, what we call the woke agenda, what we call the globalist agenda, and they've gotten used to it. And now it's a game changer because all that money is being stopped. And well, first of all, they're trying to find substitutes for it, like Qatar and China,
Hmm.
were kind of eager to fill the gap.
Huge, yeah.
Uh, Although, having said that, the agenda is still the same in that funding.
Well, it does kind of make sense. I mean, if you're looking at the world as a unipolar world where the US led these relationships, and all of a sudden you're taking a step back for X, Y, and Z reasons. It's very, very weird for me to hear as a non-American that the U.S. was funding left and far left organizations. Trying to understand that, but in a multipolar world, China coming in and filling those shoes along with Qatar and any other player that might come up, whether that be India later on or whatnot, is the logical response in terms of IR. But the first aspect of it is really weird for me.
Well, it was very smart what the globalists did. Uh, they made their main opponent, the United States, or proponent. You have to think about it. The United States having a dual role. Half of the United States was against it. Yeah, the other half, or probably the minority, was for it. And they managed to promote the globalist agenda using U.S. money. So
But the minority was way more vocal than the majority.
exactly. And the reason was you have to go back to the 60s. What happened then is when the CIA was first formed, the uh, let's say the devil in the room was Soviet Russia. So
Hmm.
what they decided to do, some stupid guy, I mean, it turned out stupid guy, and psychops in the CIA that was formed. Now I'm very well versed in that because my father used to be an OSS district manager. That was a precursor for Middle East.
Hmm.
His name was Alfred Wag. He was a counselor to President Truman. He was also a photographer and wrote books about Truman. And what happened is that some guy in the newly formed CIA division. He said, "Well, if we need to hit the Stalinists, this is the beginning of the Cold War, even just right where it started. Well, let's get the Trotskyists, the guys that
Hmm.
hate Stalin, to be our allies." So what they did, is they went to what we call the School of Frankfurt, which was the entryist Marxist, but Trotskyist, so what we call the Fourth International,
Mhm.
which was in 1938 and became the core of the progressive movement. And let's get him into the CIA so we can hit Stalin. And they started helping him out they brought him all to the United States,
Mhm.
those who weren't there uh, already. And gradually, uh, CIA was full of Trotskyite elements.
Right.
And what is the core belief of the Trotsky ideology? It's called entryism, which means you enter. If you're a small unit and you can't head up with your opponent in direct battle, you infiltrate. That's entryism. And when you infiltrate, you slowly propagate, you become bigger, and then you take over
By
the
force.
no, you take it over from within. You
Cultural force, I
multiply.
meant. Yeah.
So what happened is, and I can remember in my childhood various scenes because my mother was first secretary of Just Bank, the joint U.S. military aid group Greece from 1952. She was in charge of the Marshall Plan until 1978. I could remember uh, big fights between the military, the State Department, and the CIA, local CIA chapter, where the State Department and the CIA had already been infiltrated by the Fourth International people. And that came and bloomed in the 60s with Saul Alinsky and again the Frankfurt School. And don't forget, Barack Obama, Saul Alinsky, for those who don't know it, was a professor in Chicago.
Mhm.
He wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. It's the handbook, the playbook for Trotskyism, not Stalinism, because they were against Stalin,
Mhm.
but they were for Marxism. And this is what you see in modern America. Now, Barack Obama was a student. Hillary Clinton wrote her doctoral dissertation on this book, on this book, and Saul Alinsky. And the Democrat Socialist Party, which is part of the Democrat Party, they're pure descendants of all that the ideology, because what they said is take marginalized groups like furries,
Mhm.
uh, LGBTQ,
Mhm.
uh, radicalize them, and then start pitting them against the system. And that because the basic tenet is they hate what America stands for now. They're anti-capitalists, they're anti American power. They're very close to Maoism. Okay, very, very close. And they got Chinese help, a lot of Chinese money to help fund universities, to help fund cultural institutions. And then they had the brilliant idea of getting in touch with the Muslims, because the basic tenet is marginalize and radicalize groups that are outside mainstream society. So, in order to destroy the core American uh, beliefs and the core American mentality, which is, let's say, a suburban house, we work, we live, we play, we vote, we support the American institutions. No, do away with that. Everything this has to be destroyed, and the way to do it is to find these marginal groups, make them big, and then pit them against the system. And it worked.
I always have this one question that stems from what you're saying. Okay, you get these groups, and I have a lot of beef with the CIA because they seem to have done half measures around the world nearly all the time. Um, but again, they've also done some good, but half measures most of the time, including Saddam, right? So that's the most prime example. But okay, you get these marginalized groups, you pin them against traditional values or traditional institutionalism or capitalism or whatever you want to name it. And you take down that system and you have a system where cultural Marxism, that's what I refer to usually, cultural Marxism has won. but you still have a series of radicalized groups. So those groups cannot unify under one umbrella. It's not like a radical Islamist can unify under the same umbrella with someone that is under the LGBTQ umbrella. These they just don't match together.
Well, actually, you see that they match, but it's temporary. You see,
That's what I'm saying. So what
the
happens
the
after?
well, they're not interested in what happens after. What they're interested now in is destroying America, destroying the core American way of life. The after will come. They're not interested in these groups getting together and sharing power. The end game is for an outside force to come. And the only outside force now that is ideologically close to them is China. Russia isn't. But even that, notice how carefully they've ployed it. They've pitted Russia against, well, not really the West, because Russia always has wanted from the 16th century to become part of the
Part of
West,
the
but the
West, yeah,
West has not wanted Russia.
and NATO too. Quite surprisingly, in the
Well,
2000.
Kissinger had suggested that Russia, and there were preliminary talks to get Russia in a sort of loose confederation with NATO, but it was killed. It was killed by exactly those forces that we were describing earlier. You see, Russia, after the collapse of after perestroika and the collapse of the Soviet Union, well, guys, it's not a communist country. Number one, it's a
Anything but,
capitalist country.
yeah.
Country, and the most important is Russia always looks to the West, to the East. They are scared, really scared that China will go up and gobble up all their natural resources. Because, first of all, we have to remember something: the total value of the Russian economy is no more than the economy of Texas.
Mhm.
The only reason Russia is still a power is A, they have the technology, albeit old, but they still have the technology. They have the nukes. And the most important is they have the will to die for what they believe in. And that cohesion there is the Russian Orthodox Church. Uh,
Way different than the Greek one.
Well, way different to the patriarchate because that's maybe something we could do a whole
Yep.
podcast about how the divisions in the Orthodox Church have been used by these
Hmm.
globalists to shift alliances, to shift allegiances. Uh, I think that we could leave that for later on,
Later
or
on.
actually do a separate podcast for that. Because here at the Republican Party in Greece, we don't deal just with operating the help desk, which is actually it's answered about 60,000 calls and helped 60,000 cases since
Amazing.
its inception in 2020. It was it was you know how it started. It's funny. It started as follows. In 2020, we had the COVID scam,
Hmm.
and President Trump announced a series of stimulus payments. Now, the local embassy, which was still in the hands of Jeffrey Pyatt, made an announcement that no, you Americans can't get the stimulus payment, blah, 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 blah. We saw that and said, oh, what's wrong here? Why? Well, the reason is obvious. I mean, the voter base is 80% Republican, maximum 20%. And if you look at the numbers, well, by then we had done our first voter drive. Uh, the Dems abroad had maybe like 5, 6, 7,000 registered Democrats here. We had 20,000. We went up from, we're starting to work here. And we realized they didn't want to. Well, we actually called it the Trump payments here in Greece, and it survived till now. Everybody refers them as to the Trump payments. And so, we did, we set up this help desk because you had to be a You had to be had have an updated tax return, even if it was a zero. So what we would do is we do the tax returns for free, which was
Nice,
incredible.
nice. That's amazing.
Yeah, what we did was they'd call the number, which is uh, and we'd get in contact with them. They'd get in contact with us, and then we'd just handle the thing. Having said that, Dems were furious about that. They were trying to say that we were buying votes. Well, I went public and I said, "If you, why don't you do it as well for your members?" Yeah, they're just armchair whiners.
Aren't they always?
Well, they, you know, that took a lot of hard work. It took because we're
Can imagine.
volunteers. We don't get paid for this. I mean, we to become an RO member, it's the subscription's a ridiculously low sum of €40 a year. I mean, that's nothing. And if you have a big family, every second member only pays 20. Every additional member only pays €20. So you can understand we're running on a shoestring, and we're running mainly out of what my vice president and I can, chip in every. We were Our budget is about 70, 80 grand a year, and that's covered entirely. I mean, the subscriptions maybe cover like 10, 20% of that because they only pay up the subscription when they remember they want something done.
Well, look, what you're saying right now for me is amazing because it proves the difference between a conservative mindset and cultural Marxism because you're operating on 70, 80 grand a year
Our
and
money,
your money.
not somebody.
And the amount of work you guys are doing, if somebody could have a look like around the studio, you can see paperwork and whatnot going on back and forth. So the amount of work you guys are doing is phenomenal versus the amount of funding you actually get.
Well, we don't get that's the thing. We have to pay up the bill ourselves, and we've had a couple of donations. They're always under 5K. I think we've had four in all the last 4 years. Just four donations of the 5K, and they never came from Greece. Two came from friends of mine in the Arab world and
Mhm.
the Gulf states, and two came from good friends of mine in Israel.
Can we stick to that for a second?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned you guys have quarters in Israel too, and now you're bringing up the Arab world. So, what is the Republicans' relations? Because if you listen to the Democrats, you guys hate the Arabs and hate the Muslims and hate the Middle
We
East.
love the Arabs. We love them. I mean, I mean, this is a joke. We love, but we don't like the jihadists
Hmm.
because the jihadists are part of that system we were describing earlier. These people have been, they don't do it for free. Let me put it.
Right.
Maybe the rank and file do it for free, but their leaders, they don't do it for free. Look at the difference between the leadership of Hamas living in Doha
Hmm.
and the rank and file who are dying because of the leadership. I mean, the leadership live in palaces, and the game changer. And I'm going to push you into a new field here. The
Let's
game
go.
changer was a hit in Doha. Look at the timing.
Go on.
Look at the timing. On the 7th of September, big terrorist hit in Jerusalem. On the 9th of September, the hit on Doha. On the 10th of September, if I remember, it's don't. I may be wrong about the dates, but the difference counts. 2 days afterwards, and the next day, Charlie Kirk is assassinated.
I wanna talk about that because for me, I mean, again, I'm not American, but the back-to-back incidents with Irina stabbed and Charlie being assassinated. I used to listen to Charlie. I'm not gonna lie. So for me, that was a very very personal hit. Even though I'm not American, I don't vote Republican. I don't vote in the U.S. at all. Um, for me, that was really really shocking.
You know, we have to consider something. There are three big religions in the world. Okay, we call them the Abrahamic religions.
Religions, sure.
Okay, what do they all have in common? The beginning. The middle is common to Jews and Christians. Let's say the end is common to the Islamic world and Jews and Christians, because they're common
No, no,
points.
I see what you mean.
You
Yeah.
can argue all you want,
Mm-hmm.
but we all relate back to the same person.
Mm-hmm.
So we have more that bind us than that keeps us ripping out each other's throats. To come to your question, yes, the Gulf states know that, but not all of them, because there's the crown jewel, Mecca and Medina. Even if in history you can argue, that people deniers that based on historical that it wasn't there, it might be somewhere else. But let's assume it was there. Mecca and Medina is a crown jewel of the Islamic world. Well,
I'd argue even Jerusalem, but okay.
That's a different story. The crown jewel is,
Mecca
but
and Medina.
that's under the Saudi control. And there are a lot of powers, wannabe powers, that want to wrestle that away from Saudi Arabia. That brings us, and this will be understood mainly by Muslim people, folk that are listening to, because you have to study the main religions. I study the Quran. I study the Bible, New Testament, Old Testament. I study history. That's part of my job as an analyst. To be able to understand all these things, you have to go to the core beliefs. So let's go back to core belief. Which are we have to think about the centers of Islam. And you were very correct about Jerusalem. So the pillars of Islam, we start with Mecca and Medina as one. The second is Cairo. Why Cairo? Because that's where you have the university, and that's where every 4 years you have the conference of the Islamic teachers who interpret the Quran and give out the fatwas, which are the correct, let's say, adjudicated interpretation of Islam. Now, the other center obviously is the Temple Mount, and it's not the Al-Aqsa. I don't call it the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's wrong, because the Al-Aqsa Mosque actually is a little bit further down. It's the Temple Mount, okay? And it's a common holy ground for several religions. Well, actually, it's administered and only be used by the Muslim, but all of the three religions considered it sacred. And that's why we have all the fighting. But it's not just that. The other centers of Islam are Constantinople, Istanbul.
Constantinople.
Yeah, Constantinople was the original name. Then Baghdad, then Damascus. Okay, see, so historically, if you leave the Muhammad was active in the 7th century, 630s, 620s. Okay, the first text of the Quran that we have currently were written in the 10th, 11th century. There's a copy that's in Topkapi. There's a copy in what used to be Baghdad. The other ones are in. So what do you have? You have centers, because Islam shifted from the desert, from inside Mecca and Medina. It shifted and became the big empire. Well, let's say empire, because it wasn't.
It was an empire.
And eventually, so it had its centers. So the game changer now in the Muslim world is certain powers trying to grab more cultural Islamic centers, and the end game. Well, you see, the Muslim Brotherhood. We could be talking about I'm an expert on the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't want to say, but I've written books on it. I've even written books about the Muslim Brotherhood being part of the Nazi occupation force, and it was something that I discovered, and they were part
I
of
didn't know that. Go on.
Yeah, the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, let me explain. Let me start from the beginning. Muslim Brotherhood was formed in 1928, actually by the Brits. But
No surprise
soon,
there.
yeah, soon Albani, the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, broke off the Brits, and he started forming an association which was based on the Assassini cult, which was in northern Iran. It was very famous back in the 14th, 15th century until
The
they.
Hashashin.
Yes, exactly. So that was his organizational motto. And he got in touch very soon with the Nazi Party of Germany,
Hmm.
and specifically Julius Streicher, who was the editor of the youth group Der Sturm, the Nazi official. And they started working, collaborating with the Nazis. Well, the common goal for them was the British colonialism in Egypt.
Hmm.
Well, obviously they wanted the Suez Canal. Yeah. So afterwards, the next guy that comes in the picture is Al Husseini, the Imam of Jerusalem. Now, this guy becomes a really radicalized Nazi, and he helps Albani and the Muslim Brotherhood become the number one force in international and political Islam. Very radicalized, and anybody they didn't agree with, they just kill.
Let me just pause you right there. Right, you look at history and you see incidents like this. Nobody has put it into that kind of perspective, at least not in schools. And I did the IB system, so I was in an American school and whatnot.
Mhm.
But you talk with people, and you talk with people on the left or the center, or maybe even some historians or whatnot, and not a lot of them will acknowledge the fact that the Islamic world was pro-Nazi. So you'll tell them that a lot of people from the Islamic world supported the Nazi movement, and not a lot of people accept that as a fact. So it's very interesting to hear how it ties up, because for me, history is linear and it does tie up with one incident to another, but not for a lot of people.
Yes, well, you have to be a bookworm. And we here at the East Med Strategic Studies Institute, we were bookworms. Just to give you an example, we were up on a video call with our researchers yesterday till 4:30 in the morning, and we had to do the show today.
Right.
A 6-hour video call, and we were discussing. I mean, at a far higher level than I'm trying to be very simple.
Simple, yeah.
So because people have never heard about this, what we're talking about now, and this is, you know, information. It's quantity and quality, and I like the idea we're doing a long podcast. I'm hoping that people will wait to the end. In our day and age, it's all about quantity, tiny one-liners, and it's not about quality. That's where Kirk changed it. He went there and tried to get quality instead of quantity. Uh, People go up to Kirk in one-liners. Oh, you're a what? You're a Nazi.
Mm.
And Kirk said, "Oh boy, who's Nazi? I mean,
Break it
let's
down for me.
yeah, break it down. What's Nazi?" And coming back, well, yes, a Muslim Brotherhood is a Nazi organization. They were founded by the Nazis. They were funded by the Nazis. They killed for the Nazis. The Arab League. That's
Hmm.
what I studied because I said, well, what happened to Husseini after he lost the fight with the Brits in Iraq in 39? Well, he ended up in Greece.
Hmm.
He couldn't go back to Jerusalem. He ended up in Greece with Palestinian fighters. What happened is the Arab League had four regiments. One in Morocco, which was annihilated by Patton. One in Bosnia, which was formed later on by Bosnian Muslims. One in the Caucasus, which was annihilated in Stalingrad, and one in Greece, which was basically was 90% Palestine. Well, let's say Arab residents of the Mandate of Palestine, because Palestinian is a word that was artificially created by the
Yep.
Brits to create chaos, and the Brits are really good at creating
Creating chaos.
chaos.
They're
I
amazing.
mean, they did the big game with Russia back in the 18th century. Let's not get into that because that's a whole story. But it goes to show that these guys have been screwing up history for the last 300 years in order to try and be they're still doing it. I mean, the half of the problems in the Middle East are still caused by. I mean, look at Ukraine. Remember Boris
Yep.
Johnson going
Yep.
to Zelensky and tell him, "Stay there, don't listen to anybody. We'll back you up." Well, actually, it was America that put up all the money, not Britain. Okay, it was we'll back you up with American money. But come back to Middle East and the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood came to Greece, and they set up camp here, and they were part of at least 7 massacres of Greek cities. They were in Kalavrita, they were in Distomo, they were in Kaloskopi, they were in Kiryaki. Well, they butchered the Greek population. And their reports, both from German officers, maps, movements, and from Greek historians of that area, which it took me about a year and a half to find out because nobody would talk about this thing. You know, it was a taboo for the left. And actually, I used sources who were mostly on the communist side to ascertain. And then I was lucky enough to find some German records about the movements of these troops, which ultimately ended up in Austria, and they were killed off by General Patton.
I want us to focus on two things because you mentioned Charlie Kirk and the hit in Doha, and you also mentioned the Middle East. So, for those that don't know, I mean, I don't think I've told you, I'm half Greek, half Egyptian. So, my dad's Egyptian, my mom is Greek. They met in Italy, fell in love, decided to live in Greece out of all the countries. And I firmly believe that there's a very strong Islamic stronghold in Greece, whether you want to call it a Muslim Brotherhood or not, for quite a very long time. And I think Greece has actually been very lucky because, in terms of security and safety, it's not prime time, it's not up there. And the reason why Greece hasn't had a hit was because it has been traditionally very, very neutral with taking a position in the Mediterranean. Now it has taken the pro-Israeli position, which I agree on.
Actually, I will interject there. Greece has taken no position. Greece is just trying to balance things out. They're not pro-Israel. Okay,
The government has taken a couple of. I mean, go ahead.
they're
Now,
not pro-Israel. They're just trying to. The Greek politicians have a basic rule: do not commit to anything. Now, how did they commit to the Democrats? Well, that's another story. We'll
it's the
get
money.
onto that. We'll
It's the
get
money.
onto that. It's a money from the U.S. side, but they're always non-committal. They don't want to. In Greece, we call it toso oso, which means just
Just as
as
much.
much as this, basically. So it's lip service to Israel. Greece could have had a huge potential
It
to
could.
be a, an actor in the area. Why? Because they have Greek populations in Syria. They have uh, Christian Orthodox populations in Egypt, in Israel,
Israel.
in Syria. Used to be in Jordan, but not anymore. In Syria, and a little bit in Lebanon. Greece could play a role. And of course, they have Cyprus, which is partly under Turkish occupation.
Occupation.
Now, Greece could play a role, but they're scared. Politicians in Greece don't want to assume risks. They want to be behind the scenes, taking the aid money, pocketing.
It's a terrible foreign policy choice for Greece, though.
Well, you think that Greece has a foreign policy? I don't think that Greece doesn't. Greece has this big fear of being taken over by Turkey. But in doing that, they've already
Been
given,
taken over.
they've already been taken over. They've refused, and this is the most important thing in politics and policy. You have to have 3 things. You have to have economic power, you have to have military power, and you have to have diplomatic
Soft.
power.
Soft power.
You can't win a war by yourself, but you can't win a war by other people waging a war for you. I mean, look at the Byzantine Empire.
Hmm.
When they lost their own power. Last occasion was Belisarius and Justinian, and maybe a little bit the comeback in the 12th century with Vasilios Vulgaroktonos and the fight against the Bulgars, the current Bulgarians who came from the today Ukraine. And that's something I'll leave for later because Ukraine is a very interesting issue
Yeah.
because the Slavs are late arrivals in the area, and there are three Slavic nations, but we'll get into that later. So the Greek politicians, they don't want to get really involved because they say, okay, it's a Greek procrastination. Okay, it'll go away. In 20 years, there's an old saying in Greece, your problems will be solved in 20 years or you will have forgotten about them. Well, history doesn't forget. And,
No.
and these things end up smashing in your face. And Greece is a victim of its own inaptitude to act, to be proactive. Now, you see, Israel is different. Israel has decided that
The
it's going to
king of
be
proactiveness.
it's going to be proactive, and what it's managed to do is gain the respect of most of the powers that were against it. I mean, I think that somebody from the Emirates or from Egypt can easily sit down with somebody from and do business. Okay.
Yep.
Having said that, their powers have a lot to gain from war, from strife, from having the three Abrahamic peoples fight against each other. And that's where people like Charlie Kirk are, they're a pimple on your face or a sore, and they have to be eliminated because, okay, you can't keep the price of oil and make a huge amount of profit if there's not a war. In peace, everything comes to stability. The before the Ukrainian war, the price of the share of Rheinmetall was at 250. Now it's 1,500 a share.
But he made a fortune there.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, the war machine, the globalists, they need tension, they need strife. And that's why they hate our guts. I mean, they really hate our guts because we're the guys on the other side of the aisle and saying, okay, cool it. We need peace. We need cooperation. We can't have Jews and Arabs at each other's throats. But having said that, I mean, look at the Arab Spring. Who the hell funded it? Well, it was the neocons. The neocons and the American establishment. Who are the neocons? They're old Trotskyites who decided to become conservative. I mean, look at the Trump deniers, the various think tanks. They're neocons. If you look back in their youth, you used to be in the Communist Party.
I'm still mesmerized by the fact that there was a communist party in the USA.
Well, it's changed. Now they call themselves Democrat Socialist Progressives. That's the what we call the Squad. And
AOC type,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
exactly. I mean, and it all goes back to the Saul Alinsky's playbook, Rules for Radicals. I mean, if you guys can get your hands on this book, I'm talking to the people in the audience, read it. I mean, it's got the whole playbook there. It's all written down. I mean, these guys, they took it's a small book, okay? It's a kind of a Bible for people who want to take over and destroy America.
Mhm.
It all starts from one basic tenet that America is evil and it must be destroyed. Okay, that's what all the um, uh,
Just because it's a mecca of capitalism, I would assume, right? I mean, that's how the
well,
hatred started, I would assume.
yeah, it's hate. Really,
Yeah.
it's hate. You're correct in that assumption. The thing is that when you start your ideology with hate
Mm.
in your first paragraph, then you sow what you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
If you plant a seed of hate, you'll get hate and war and death. If you plant a seed of love and of progress, you'll get a reward of happiness And and that's our basic difference with the left.
Mm.
Well, what we call left, because even that has shifted. Here we have a very specific uh, fourth international group, Trotskyite. And don't forget, Trotskyite, the Stalinists had him executed with an axe on his head. The guy called Mirka there killed him in Mexico in 1939. And half of the world was celebrating there. Okay, at least the Soviet. So the left is also divided. But what happened is that there was a very odd thing that came. Uh, the left got in bed with the huge tycoons, because the left and they had one thing in common: the control of information. Where did the big tycoons make money? Off the internet. What is the internet? Data. Data. So these guys made huge fortune. I mean, gazillions of dollars, to put it that way. Okay, not even. And they needed a system like a social credit system in China that would control the masses so they could make more money. And you saw that during COVID, the money was amassed. They even made more money. And that's the key. You have to be very suspicious in politics. You have to follow the money. Okay, ideologies can do a lot of damage or a lot of good, but at the end, you have to follow the money. So when we research something, the first thing is, okay, what's in it for him or her?
Right.
So it's very hard to look at politics without looking at the oligarchs. And it's been the same. I mean, in World War One, it was a Krupp family. In World War Two, it was a Krupp family. And potentially oh, wow, it's again the Krupp family and its offshoots. You have to follow the money. And many people will start being very mesmerized. And so, well, what's this guy saying? Well, it all comes together: money, religion, power, the corridors of soft or strong power. They all they're all interconnected. And the tough job of an analyst like myself is to be able to pull all those threads together
I'll make
and
something out of
and
it.
make something out of it and make recommendations and tell the GOP or the people that are watching now that, listen, guys, wise up. It's a big con game. Okay, you have to understand. Well, maybe my job, because I'm a criminal attorney and I specialize in financial crime. That's a way make some money to be able to pay in part for all of this. It's a big con job. So who are the big con men? Well, the con men always are the businessmen. And who are their accomplices? The people who do the policy. And who are the pawns? The politicians. And who is the mark? The person, the
You-
people,
Yeah,
the people all around the world, whether they're Muslim, whether they're Christian, whether they're Arab, whether they're Greek, whether they're Turkish, they're the marks.
but that's a con that's been as old as time, and
Exactly.
still keeps on going.
Yes, it's a con because it's like a big soap opera, Coronation Street, and everybody used to. That's how it works, and we have to get the people to understand that it's a big con job, and what you need is politicians who are less constant. Politicians keep their word. I mean, so many, like Greece, people have voted for issues, and they've gotten exactly the opposite of
Opposite.
what they voted for, and it's been done for four election cycles. The result, well, the last elections was the lowest turnout ever, because Greek voters say, well, whatever I vote, I'm going to still get the same globalist rubbish, whatever I vote.
Makes no difference.
There was a huge, which I was part of, huge movement of they called it the movement of the squares in 2010 and 2011 against the globalist forces, against Germany, and for Germany to pay the reparations. And well, they voted for a particular party. Party sold them out next day. Yeah, and got Greece into the what we call the memoranda.
And same party leader still wants to come back into politics.
Yes, true, but I think his well, it's funny because two leaders from the that particular party, the previous one, who I think is not very active in politics, Mr. Kaselakis. Well, Mr. Kaselakis was a CIA plant, and he used to originally he was supposed to run for the Nea Demokratia team,
Mhm.
and he was a party member. And then they told him, no, no, switch so we can help out the ruling party, which is definitely globalist. And so they sent him off to the other party so he could destroy it. So I guess maybe they're trying to do the same again with the make sure that the current globalist party, because the globalists, they don't care about ideology, they don't care about they just care about making money, having power, and screwing up the people. I mean, look at the with the Green Deal. Greece is sitting on one of the largest reserves, probably, uh, at least this side of the hemisphere.
And they've known that since the 60s, right? Like,
Oh yeah, we
mhm.
had we had a conference on energy security in 2019. Everybody was there. Israel was there. France was there. Italy was there. This was 2019. New Greek government, supposedly conservative. Who was not there? Greek government. Yeah, because they had received their orders. Don't don't talk about energy because okay, listen, Greece has all this energy, but yeah, but there are a lot of powers that don't want to see that energy extracted. Well, first power, your competition. Why would Qatar would rather sell air gas to Greece. Russia would rather sell gas to Greece. Why should Greece extract its own gas? It's very simple.
I'd even argue the European Union itself, because they seem like a bunch of con men to me. And I'm saying this very politically with no.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, you have this unelected bureaucracy in
That's where cultural Marxism for me has peaked.
yeah,
Like it has won 100%.
yeah. Uh, Listen, a conservative movement, I think, is coming. It came late. It took up. It's gained huge momentum, and it's gained huge momentum because whatever we say is logical. I mean, you don't have to be a bookworm like me and to spend 6 8 hours studying every day to be history, theology, politics, economics, to understand the basic tenets.
Like not being a 20-year-old girl that gets stabbed in the metro.
Well, you see, that's the result. When you radicalize people and you tell them it's okay to kill what you consider
White
evil,
girls, yes.
well, it's not just white girls. Anything you consider across the aisle, you can kill. That's a big one of the rules for radicals, that you can uh, you can be violent against your political opponents, and you saw that in the 2020 riots in the United States, which were described as mostly peaceful protests. I mean, you remember there was a huge fire raging behind it. Oh, and the mostly peaceful protest. Oh, and well, it wasn't by chance that this happened in Michigan. Michigan is becoming one of the most radicalized areas of the United States, and consider that Michigan used to be a backwater agricultural area. And you can see the division. The division and the civil war to ensue is what they're aiming at. You know,
Civil
they
War.
asked Patton during the Second World War how he won Rommel. I'm gonna beep out. I read his beep beep book. All you have to do to understand how the Democratic Socialist Party, which is part of the Democratic Party, will work is read
The book.
Rules for Radicals. It's there. It's a simple book. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a playbook. And you know how it starts? The dedication is to the first revolutionary in history, Lucifer.
Ah, okay. That's interesting. I haven't read it. I will after this, but I haven't read it.
Yep.
So that's very impressive. That's very impressive. That's a good intro.
Yep. The first revolutionary who rebelled against his father. So basically, what the rules for radicals and the left is telling you: rebel against anything without a reason, just so we can get our playbook into operation. Because what we need is to destroy what is out there. We don't offer a solution because that's I'm not going to get today into the way the Trotskyite, but basically you deconstruct to reconstruct. So you have to destroy it all, so the void can be filled by China. Because the China at this point is the only Marxist country in the world.
That's very interesting because, and I'm getting a little bit into a personal story here. I had a Greek American friend who lives in Virginia, but he was here when we were in third grade together, and he eventually left. And when they went back to the States, they were here for like a year. His dad was a very traditional conservative guy, right? And every year, every summer, they would come to Greece and we would hang out. And, as we grew up, teenagers, yada, 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 yada. And somewhere along the teenage years, I was the rebel that wanted to go out and, live the Greek life, right? And they were on the most conservative front. Now, that gentleman, and we've had this debate from 2016, so the first election onwards. We no longer talk. But on the first elections, he took the side of the Democrats, so he was a very liberal. I was on the Trump front, and he was telling me that I don't understand U.S. politics and I have no right or saying them. My argument was that since it's global politics at this point, I do have a
Ah, yes. Sorry to interrupt, but this is the typical talking point of the left. When the conversation goes south, they
Mhm.
go, "Oh, shaming, shame you. You have no right to talk about that. You pointing figures. It's very hard to get them into actual dialogue, like what we're having today. I could be sitting with you. You could be theoretically,
Mhm.
but we could talk. I can talk to anybody. They can't talk.
No.
It becomes a sort of religious thing, and then they start barking out these pre-recorded messages because that's the limit. Sorry for interrupt.
No,
But
no, 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 no. It's
you were
fine.
just
That, that,
coming
that
up
was
the
that
alley.
was that was the end point I wanted to make. That we stopped talking at the when that cop killed that criminal Floyd
Yeah,
Floyd
George
no,
Floyd,
George
and
Floyd.
he was convicted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was the point where we stopped talking because I was like, you know what? This is my opinion on it,
Yeah.
and his opinion was a different opinion. He was out protesting and whatnot, and um,
Well, that was a in some way it was a rehearsal for what will come, and they realized that they didn't have the power to change American society yet, so they kind of went into dormancy again. Uh, for the cultural revolution to work, I mean, you have to
small
be able.
pause. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He became very institutionalized via the university. So
Hmm.
this man was a far bigger conservative than what I was, and
Hmm.
all of a sudden he flipped on completely other side. Usually, you start life on the left, and then you take a turn towards conservatism. He took the opposite path, and this was done a lot through U.S. universities.
Yeah, you don't forget U.S. universities are completely have been taken over by the School of Frankfurt. I mean, it's very hard for you to be either a Jew or a conservative. You're practically stoned out. It's a really uh, it's a law of the bully there. And this started back in the 60s, 70s. They accuse the conservative right of what we call McCarthyism. That was nothing. I mean, that was just one senator for a year having hearings on communists, and actually didn't. This is massive. So it was the reverse of McCarthyism. What the left managed to do is kick out any dissenting opinion from university, and they did it. You said the word institutionalize.
Hmm.
They institutionalized Marxism. You can't be in a university if you don't agree with them. You can't publish a paper. So what they did, they got control of all the institutions, and slowly, or rather rapidly, they got rid of any possible opposition. So at this time, they're the complete hegemons, the rulers of the academia in America, which means that if you disagree, you have to become Charlie Kirk. You have to go outside of the university and talk to the students, and then,
If
uh,
you disagree too much, you die.
well, actually, I think that it was a matter of it was Charlie Kirk's murder was a sign of retribution by the system to anybody who dares oppose it. Uh, they were calling the system was calling for his physical demise long before.
Yeah.
I think it was just a matter of timing. The trigger was set, and he was murdered. I
CIA
don't think.
operative.
Well, don't forget that there is no CIA. Central Intelligence has been taken over by the Trotskyites since at least the 60s. I mean, if you, I had to produce, I had found some documentation on open source because they were declassified. I found documents from the CIA reports. Uh, they said I had a speech in it's up on the internet in on I Love Patria and the podcast on the on our conference on the woke culture. This was back in March 2025. I found those documents and I'm gonna and I analyzed them there. What they said is we will export the second American. This is a CIA report, okay? And it says we will export the second American Revolution all around the world. We will create chaos. Watch me. The second American Revolution.
Hmm.
We will create chaos. We will create mayhem. We will create pain. And after that, we will overcome them. And that's you can't get more entryist, you can't get more Trotskyist
Yeah.
than that. That was the playbook. This is a playbook. That's what they're doing. The Arab Spring was manufactured by the same agencies. Destroyed Egypt, destroyed all the countries. It pitted them to war. Why? Because you have to deconstruct to reconstruct.
Well, Libya is still deconstructed.
Well, that was the Arab Spring.
Yeah.
It's not just about going in, grab maybe some multinational grabbing the oil. Okay, that's a fringe benefit.
Side
You,
income.
yeah, you have to go in and destroy the fabric of society.
To be fair, Sisi has come back into Egypt and he is holding the fabric pretty well. I think for me, I like his foreign policy a lot. So I like the role he's taken with Israel. I like the fact that he's pro-US. I like these facts. I see him as a potential center of stability for Egypt in the long run. And I like the fact that he took over from the Muslim Brotherhood. You disagree with me, I can see it.
I agree in what you're saying, but Sisi is under heavy fire.
He is.
Uh, you're an Egyptian, you know it very well. Egypt is a melting pot.
Mm.
There are civilizations that come into contact there. There are the Coptic Christians, there are the Arab Muslims,
Mhm.
and you have a big division at this moment as we speak in the Egyptian Arab world between the old guard and the new guard.
Hmm.
The Muslim Brotherhood, the ghost of that brotherhood is still there. It may have moved to Turkey, it may have moved to Qatar, but it's still there. And Egypt, you remember
Well, it's
about an
good.
hour we said that the Egypt is one of the centers of Islam because
Yeah.
all the muftis gathered there from around the world and they compiled the fatwas. Well, there are some people who want to take that jewel away from Egypt. And don't
Realistically
forget
speaking,
the Ismailites,
yeah.
Ismailia.
Yeah. I mean, realistically speaking, I can see why there's ground for it in Egypt. They have what, like 70% of the population that wants Sharia. You have lack of education. There's ample ground for the Muslim Brotherhood to be there. So it's I mean, it's not an easy playground. It's a difficult playground. I don't think there's any easy playground in the Mediterranean, to be honest. Maybe Malta, maybe, maybe,
Maybe.
maybe,
But
maybe.
don't forget, Malta was a center of fighting for centuries. It was a crossroad. We this is our area is the birthplace of the civilizations.
Mhm.
Okay, let's say the triangle between Greece, the Saudi Peninsula, Egypt. That's in Mesopotamia. Well, actually, it's a obloid rectangle, but that's where it all started. And this is also where it keeps on fermenting. And
It's a very interesting take.
yes, it's fermenting, and it's like it's fermenting, it's boiling up, and eventually will explode. We haven't seen the explosion yet, and probably the powers to be want to trigger that. I understand that the globalist powers are gearing up for war within the next couple of
Yeah.
years. We know that, and we see the signs, and eventually it will come to that. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to tell you this, but life is a matter of, and politics is a matter of fermentation. It builds up. It builds up. It's gonna blow off.
I think, and I speak for every rational human being out there, we were all hoping that it won't come to that with Trump. And to
Yes,
be
but you
fair, he's
see,
doing solid,
he's
solid
doing
try.
solid work. But look at the opposition. Look at the look at how he's being treated. And look at how he's being treated, not only by his enemies, but by his
Friends.
frenemies.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Tarkler, Carlson, Candace Owens suddenly going, even Steve Bannon going rogue on him
Mhm.
and supporting, let's say, conservative America's enemies. And Charlie Kirk assassination wasn't random. Okay, it was certainly the timing was. I mean, yeah, it's it just came before the massive shift. This gazillions amount of Qatari money being spent by the Doha Investment Fund, but not only their money to alter U.S. Policymakers. I mean, we can see it in the Congress. We can see it all around. We can see it in the media. And as I say, follow the money. Look at the money trail. And that's America last. It's not America first. And Trump team is trying to get a job done, despite many times the fact that it's infiltrated.
Can I ask you to deep dive a little bit more into the Charlie Kirk situation?
Yep.
Go for it. Take it from wherever you want to take it and
Okay.
lead it to wherever you want to lead
Charlie
it.
Kirk was potentially a threat to
To
the
whom?
system.
Okay.
Okay. Because, first of all, he was a brilliant guy. Second of all, he knew his stuff. I mean, I could theoretically talk to Charlie Kirk for hours and hours and not stop because he was like me, big bookworm, but he was also an activist
Yeah.
like me because that's what we do. That's what the Republican Party chose me because I was a political activist.
Hmm.
I wasn't somebody. I wasn't a couch potato. I was out on the streets getting tear gas sprayed on me, getting beaten by cops. right and left. So they know I had the stuff. Okay, obviously my military background, 12 years. Okay, but they knew I was a guy that doesn't take
Get you done.
crap. Okay, so he was a toxic combination because he had social penetration. He was recognized as the ideological leader of the youth, and youth gets older and begets more youth and becomes even stronger political power. And it was quite obvious that at some point he would be running for office.
President.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily president, but he could be running for office and or doing something that would be very dangerous for the
Establishment.
establishment. In the establishment, there's the right establishment, there's the left establishment, but mainly the establishment has one characteristic: they all group together. When their interests are threatened, they all group together and get rid of the competition.
Why kill him now, though?
Well, he was getting too dangerous because the Trump Kirk combination was too much.
Hmm.
Because they figured, okay, if Trump has Kirk out there, he's going to make sure that he sticks to the rules. If he doesn't have a Kirk out there, maybe he'll try to cut corners. And maybe there we can put some influence, get it done quickly and not by the book. Because
So
by the book,
what they did in his first term, basically, or what they tried to
okay,
do with his first term.
if you want me to be completely honest, Trump term number one wasn't bad,
No, it wasn't bad.
but it could have been much better.
Yeah,
Why?
it's like getting a new job, really.
Yeah. But why? Because what Trump did is he relied on the government
Yep.
to govern.
That's the problem.
Well, it doesn't work
Yeah.
because if you go to rules of sociology, you will discover that Regelsberger, when coining the term bureaucracy and giving a definition, means bureaucracy is a system that exists in order to recreate itself. Bureaucracy exists solely to promote bureaucracy. They don't give a rat's tail about the people they're supposed to serve.
So Greece.
It's all around the world. Bureaucrats, they don't care. If you ask a bureaucrat what his purpose is in this world, probably doesn't know. He's to serve the system into which he is incorporated. So, having said that, the bureaucracy hates people who gets things done, and they get it done faster. I remember in the Marshall Plan in Greece, all the U.S. Well, how the Marshall Plan started. It was in 1949. There was money coming in from the UNRWA program. I mean, it reminds a little bit of Gaza, it reminds of other places. And the money was being squandered at the local casinos where the Greek politicians take the money and spend
So
it.
the very first form of USA.
Yeah, UNRWA. Yeah, well, actually, there was earlier. Money was even sent from the United States during the Greek Revolution, and most of it ended up in pockets of certain people. It's another thing. We'll talk about that another time. It's a special project I'm doing about the.
Never you're ready.
Yeah, yeah. So, having said that, America decided, oh, okay, it's too much. A guy called a journalist called Porter came in and did a report, and Just Mag was set up. My mother was first secretary there. My father was together with General Van Fleet. They run the show, and what they decided to do is, like for instance, Greek farmers needed mules.
Mhm.
Before they'd send money for the mules, oh, not even a hoof came. Well, my dad and Van Fleet decided, well, okay, we'll ship 15,000 mules from California, and they brought them actually to Greece and distributed them to the people. Greek politicians had
It's the best way to do it.
they hated it because, what's in it for them? Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, it was only for the people. And for instance, they'd give grants to Greek businesses or business people, or I had an idea to do a factory or something. And they'd go to the Greeks and to get a license, and the Greeks wanted kickbacks. What they did is they issued the licenses themselves. America building the licenses in Greece. But it worked. And for several years, the Greek economy boomed. Despite the fact that the Greek politicians were furious about that.
Let's talk about that relationship a little bit, because I studied a lot of I really like U.S. history and foreign policy, so I studied a lot of it during my university years and much later on. And what really shocked me is that you start off understanding U.S. history in the spectrum of building things like Manifest Destiny, The City Upon the Hill, a country that would take on the principles of what Greece was, right? Take the principles of what Greece was, and what Greece represented, and what Hellenism to an extent represented, and duplicate it and make it better in the US. So that was the idea behind it. And I was very shocked to find out that part. And I was very shocked to find out that we were talking about things like a republic rather than a democracy. So very different systems. What Greece was,
Yes.
basically. And the US, I see it as an extension of what Greece was, but not what Greece has become. They have common things, sure. And that's potentially, you would say that's because of Trotskyism. I would say it's because of, I don't know, globalization. There's many different takes and perspectives into it. So Greece has become what it has become, and the US has become something different. But what the US is today is much closer to what Greece should have become. And I don't see Greece becoming that at any point in the next few years, or even maybe like 4 generations down the line. And I sort of wanted to get your understanding of it. Do you think we need to turn into a republic? We need to get rid of the bureaucracy? Give me your take.
Okay, listen. Greece, first of all, has a very what we call a rigid constitution, which means they can't really change their way of governance without having revolution. Okay, I'm far from me to suggest that. There are very few uh, constitutions, are in legal terms, are considered from lax, which you can change everything, like
Hmm.
England with an act of parliament, or very strict, like Greece, which has core a statute that can't be changed. So you can't change the way the Greek country is run, because you have to have one parliament, one prime minister, and a president of the republic who by the constitution has no powers.
Yep.
And that's strange, because it creates a system that makes a prime minister into a godlike figure, because unlike the American system, there are
No
no
checks
checks and
and balances.
balances,
Yeah.
and that's very bad, because the Greek political system has become prime minister weighted, but the thing is they can't change it unless they have a actual revolution. They can't decide in parliament, even by uh, overwhelming majority, that they can switch this. They can possibly give more uh, more administrative duties to the president of the republic, but that's it. And the thing is that the parliament, the way it works, it's all the MPs are lackeys to their party leader, because there are no primaries. They can't uh, become candidates for any office unless the party boss
Right.
appoints them. So the whole system is very weighted against republicanism, or it's democracy, but it's really toned down. Actually, a very famous professor, Kondoyorgis in Greece, jokingly calls democracy in Greece as a hereditary parliamentary system,
I was
because
gonna say I was gonna say feudalism.
yeah, you see the same families both in the leadership of the parties and the MPs. The titles of a MP becomes passed on to the sons and the daughters of these people, and this has been going on for 2, 3 generations.
So how do you beat feudalism in Greece?
Well, not with this constitution. Eventually, it will break down. But that's not something that's going to happen now, because the Greek people are apathetic. They've been disillusioned. And I don't think that this system will be leaving soon, unless there's something major, a war, maybe Greece losing a lot of territory. I mean, theoretically, practically, it's lost a lot of territory because it's lost its entire influence on the economic sea zones,
Hmm.
because it's given up its rights to mineral extraction. Like, they know, for instance, that south of Prinos is this huge oil reserve, and their Prime Minister Papandreou back then said the famous "mea culpa." It was my mistake that I did it, and I signed a secret treaty with Turkey not to um, extract that oil.
So unless there's some form of turbulence, you don't see any form of change. And if change does come, should it follow an American model? I mean, someone would say that the American model itself is has its pros and cons. I see a lot more pros and cons, but it's pretty evident that there's also a lot of cons. Um,
Well, you said the word cons. The problem in Greece, it's full of cons, and
right.
I'm not talking about cons. I'm talking about the actual cons that siphon off the money from the people, and it's a con job, really. The political system in Greece is a con job, because they've taken part of the old Ottoman style
Hmm. Governance. Yeah.
governance, where the serf, the poor guy in the bottom, would go suck up to the Greek politician and ask for favors, what they call rusfeti, and then the Greek politician will sell those favors for votes. So basically, that's what happened. We saw it in the infamous scandal now in OPKP. What they would do, they'd dish out grants to political favorites, and there was massive, and it was right up to the top. Everybody knew about it. I mean, it was funny. One of the scam people, these people in the ring, actually called him one of our members of our board, and suggested that said member, I'm not going to say her name, uh, sign up for a grant, for an agricultural grant. She has nothing to do with the
Hmm.
agriculture. She doesn't even know how to grow pot the plant on
Right.
the and the deal was that she would get 20,000 a year. The ringleaders would get 80,000, and there was some piece of agricultural unclaimed land that would be registered in her name. You know, and this was massive, massive, and it was a money machine for the political system. It was a voting machine for the political system, and I mean, this is one of the worst scams you can. And still, the Greek people apathetic because they've lost interest. They think that I don't. The system is broken. Whatever I vote, I'm going to see the same results. So I'm going to stay at home, and to hell with them.
See, so I'm very conflicted with that because I'm looking at the current government, right? And I come from a right wing background. Like that is where I stand politically. But I'm looking at the current government, and I'm very conflicted because on one hand, this scandal would have never come out if it wasn't for the European prosecutor, right? So for specific forces outside there that want to discipline Greece and try to make it a country. I don't think they're going to be successful, but they're trying to make it a country. And on the other side of the coin, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, this has been going on for the past 30 years, maybe. That we know for sure that it's been going on since the previous government. So we're talking about cities up until now. So we know that for sure. We've known it during the PASOK high times. So, Larissa, for example, most of those funds are Porsche capital of Europe. So we know that it has been going on, but why did it come into the light of day now? Is it an attempt of the current government to try to bring out all these scandals? Because there's a lot of scandals that have become out with this current government,
And there are
and
more coming.
there are more coming, right? So my
I know.
fair, fair. I'm not even gonna ask, but my interpretation is this government letting these scandals come out for the sole purpose of changing society,
No, no.
or
They
is it
have
other forces that are doing
other
it?
forces. Other forces. You see, it's a power game. It's you come, I go. Basically, these forces that are battling now have. It's just a matter of who's in charge. So the system realizes that this government is on its way out. I mean, the people, even its own party cadre has had enough. So it's time to change the wrapping,
Right.
bring something new. Uh, it'll still run the same way, but bring something new so we can get another extension for the system for 5 or 8 years, and then we'll change the wrapping again. This
But you're not doing anything by extending the system the way this system is.
Yeah, but the system doesn't care about that. The system is making money. It's keeping power. And that's enough for them. They don't care about the side effects. They don't care about the long term effects. I mean, we were saying earlier that the Greek politicians have a time lapse of a grasshopper. I mean, they live for the next few months,
Mhm.
politically. I mean, and they don't care about what happens. And they say, "Oh, you remember I was saying in 20 years our problems will be solved, or we will have forgotten about them." So it's a matter of it's also Greek mentality. Um, don't worry about the long term effects. Let's do something quick for now, and irrespective of the consequences. So when you ask me, because I've been watching Greek politics for decades, and the French say something, plus que ça change, plus que ça reste le même. The more things change, the more they say it's the same. So basically, you're having the last, since the 70s, everything is being switching, changing, but it all stayed
Stays
the
the same.
same because their system is specifically tailored to avoid checks and balances. The people could not check the system. The judicial system is out of reach. Sometimes you have good judges, but mainly you have judges
If you
who
go to
don't.
court in Greece, it's a towing cost. It's either
Yeah,
gonna go one way or another. It's like towing
yes,
costs.
but you don't want the judges are too scared to get involved in the big cases. I was involved as a criminal lawyer because of my special in financial crime, doing away with a big mafia style like
Hmm.
Marinopoulos, a big supermarket scam, 4.5 billion, and others. And it was very hard because there was no incentive to do away with these oligarchs. And the oligarchs would pay off the politicians. The politicians would be in cahoots with the media, which was owned by the oligarchs. It's a vicious cycle, but if you know how to work around it, yes, you can.
But it's not like the same as working around it as it is in the U.S., right? So you don't have RICO laws here, for example.
Yes, we do.
In Greece,
Yes, you do. I used RICO laws again. Well, I'm using. I have this huge case now with the RICO law.
because you're looking at you know
And that's, because you said the European prosecutor. Well, some things filtered, like the RICO law was filtered down from the European Union. One of the very few good things that came from there, because generally from the European Union, you just get bureaucracy. But occasionally you may get 5% of good stuff.
I'm very surprised that you can apply that in Greece. I would not expect anything that would sort of put into
Half
harm
of,
this
half,
system.
half of the cases are now done under RICO Act, which is Εγκληματική Oργάνωση in
Right.
Greek, a criminal organization. Most cases are prosecuted that way.
That's very interesting.
Hmm.
That's very interesting. So potentially, you might argue that there might be some change happening in Greece.
Well, listen, obviously there's change, and it's not that things will stay static forever. You know, it's a straw that broke the camel's back. Okay, you're you're loading the Greeks, the Greek people with problems, with problems, with problems. Eventually, it's going to break. Eventually, it will crack. I don't think it's that time yet, but it's getting close. Since 1974, with the new regime after the junta, the colonel's dictatorship, the political system has been pretty static, and it's been building up problems. Now that's 50 years of problems, and it's starting to show, and it will break.
The
So
cracks are there.
the cracks are huge, and the major crack is that the people are not interested. But when the time for the big loss, whether it's loss of territory or a second economic catastrophe, because there was a
That's where I'm betting my money on.
yeah, I wrote a book saying that it wasn't by chance that the economic downfall of 2007. It was all planned. I was a lawyer in the very big case of government bonds. Actually, I had no interest in that because I was a public defender. Somebody didn't have money, but it gave me 3 years because it was one of the longest trials. Here, 3 years of time to study the case, and for somebody in my line of business who does financial crime, it was an eye opener, and it was just one big scam that being orchestrated by the usual culprits, the banks and everything, to scam an entire nation. So, having said that, and looking at the time, which has flied, I think
Absolutely.
we because people are going to get tired. I think we can do another show at some other time. Let's wrap up with a couple of uh, quick questions so we can let the people go and rest.
Uh, I don't really have any quick questions for you. They're all going to be very long. But
Fi-
um,
Fire away.
ties, Greece and the US. How do you see that evolving in the next few months, years?
Well, that's a very interesting question because as we said earlier in the podcast, uh, Greeks are just trying to play lip service to the current United States administration. Uh, they'd love to get the old status back because they're missing the money.
Hmm.
Okay, the U.S. aid, and of course we know who profited that. I mean,
Sure.
I wrote the book on it, all 738 pages of it. Uh, but the thing is, we realize that they hit our guts. Okay,
Right.
so whatever, let's say, positive moves they take will be under extreme duress. And what they're scared of is yours truly, because that's the deals are the carrot and we're the stick.
Right.
Republicans overseas here in Greece. I mean, if we publish our report on the USAID recipients,
Will you?
well, it's up to the GOP. Well, if we're ordered to, obviously they have copies. I mean, they can kill me tomorrow. It doesn't matter.
Right.
There's a copy out there. There's several copies, and if those are publicized, finished. Not just to the Greek government, the entire Greek political system will go into flames because they'll find out who got how much, whether it was a reporter, whether it was a government official, whether it was a leader or leaders of the opposition, MPs. They all were in on the game. Okay.
I know my word means nothing because I'm no particularly big player, but I would love to see that happen. Mostly in the hopes that out of all this chaos, something new can emerge. And
Oh, you're sounding like a Trotskyite because do you listen?
fair, fair.
I can relate that. Listen, I can absolutely relate because guys, to destroy a system, you just can't put patch band-aids on it. You have to destroy it in order to rebuild it, and that's the key. You destroy in order to rebuild. For the Greek system to be fixed, it
It
has to be
it
destroyed.
has to. It
It has
has
to
to.
be destroyed. Um, One thing I've learned as a student of history is study, prepare, organize, and execute. And the Greek system is ripe for that.
Mhm.
The question is, are the people ready for it? The political system's shot. Are the people ready for it? Well, we'll see. We'll see. But I think the Greek system has come to a point that it's going to suffer major loss within the next year. So, I mean, major, really bad. And Greeks have a way of pulling together in face of adversity.
They do.
So, what I predict is they're going to get a really nasty shot, uh, slap, whatever, loss, and then they'll pull together and
Recover.
recover. But in order to recover, they have to change the system. I think that's when the GOP will tell me
Go.
as they're to release the files so everybody know at the moment the change, because I don't think the Greek people now at this point are ready to change. They're still in the apathy mode.
Enjoying it. Yeah.
Well, not enjoying it. Their power. They're destroyed. I mean, average Greek family after 20th of each month
Doesn't
has
have any money.
doesn't have any money because why? It all goes to the oligarchs through the power bills, through the grocery bills. I mean, guys, Greece makes like one fifth average salary, one fifth of the United States, and the costs are almost the same. And it's getting worse. It's not getting better. I mean, everybody, all the Greek politicians saying how great it is. No way. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and it's becoming the dump of Europe. So that's going to bring a reaction, and eventually it'll blow.
I think we should conclude with that.
Okay.
So, Jonathan, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you having this conversation with me, and we've lasted for quite some time here, and I proactively want to ask you to have another conversation, especially around religious matters
Yes,
in future.
absolutely, absolutely. We can talk about that. It was already a 1.5 hour podcast. That's the limit of what most people can handle. Thank you for
Thank you.
being
It was
here.
great having you, and great for you having me.
Okay,
So, thanks.
and we to all our viewers, we hope that you enjoyed this, and we'll promise to do it again. And
Please like and subscribe.
stay close to us. We try to and inform the people, both in Greece and stateside, of all the current affairs in Europe and in Greece and all around the world. Thank you. God bless.